is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to SimSpeed TV's coverage on the iRacing Esports Network of round number 12 of the iRacing V8 Supercar Championship. We will be bringing you the action tonight from the wonderful Road America, the National Park of Speed for America, of course, host to many legendary series, including IMSA, Indy, NASCAR, and unfortunately never hosted a V8 supercar race. But thanks to the iRacing platform, we can write our own story here this evening and turn fiction into reality. And we have 32 cars on the grid for you this evening. And a lot of these guys are in very good practice, of course, from yesterday's V8 Scops race. And many people returning from that, including Madison Downs, Sam Blacklock, Brett Loxton, who are sitting in our top 3 positions at the moment. But I am Zach Hanlon. Joining me tonight in the commentary booth is David Haynes, and we've got Jay Kennedy on the buttons tonight. And very interesting race in V8 Scops. David, a couple of guys in here tonight. How do you think it's all going to pan out this evening?
Yeah, I definitely caught about 20 or 25 laps of yesterday's V8 Supercar Online Premiership Series race here. and it was very good. And like you say, there's a lot of guys who'll be very in practice with this circuit, have a lot of setup worked out for it. And because of that, I imagine up the top, it's going to be pretty sharp. So we've got a 33-lap race.
Yes, well, we can see already, looking at the qualifications so far, Madison Down is currently sitting on provisional pole on a 2:07.402. Sam Blacklock, our championship leader, sitting just behind, just 900ths of a second separating those two guys, and Brett Loxton just a 10th behind as well. So some very tight times up the top of the field there, and qualification coming to a close in just a couple of moments. Looks like everyone's managed to put a time in so far, with the exception of looks like James Duckworth and David Miller, who have yet to put a lap in, and James Duckworth is not out on the track. David Miller is, but he's unfortunately gone off track on his second lap, which don't think he would have been able to finish either way, unfortunately, and is not going to be making a time in this evening. We will have a look at our starting grid this evening, because qualification has now concluded. Madison Down will start from pole position. He'll be joined on the front row of the grid by championship leader Sam Blacklock, and the man hunting him down, Brett Loxton, will start just behind. Sam Sutton will start from P number 4. Brady Myers will start in 5th position. Jackson Suslin-Harlow, who's been doing a fantastic job the last few rounds, will be joined in familiar company by Harley Haber on row number 4 of the grid. Thomas McMillan and Kurt Stenberg will line up position 8 and 9, and Chris Coxhead will take out the top 10 position.
11th place will be Ross Rizzo. 12th, James McKee. 13th, Jamie McKnight. 14th goes to Steve Jansen. 15th is Michael Teliancic. 16th, Scott Soslowski. 17th, Guy Leach. 18th is Craig Jones. 19th is Mario Vlasic, and grabbing the 20th spot on the grid is Brenton O'Brien.
Then we have Zach Baker starting from 21st position. Kyle Stokes, the Synergy Sim Racer, he'll definitely be looking for a better performance than 22nd this evening. We'll see if he can move himself up through the grid. Justin Wallace will start from 23rd position, and Christian Smart will start from 24th. Damian Johnston out of 25th. Mark Samuel will start from 26th position. Jamie Stovald out of 27th. Liam Wild, 28th. Jason Cossey in 29th position. Scott Clark in 30th. And the two drivers not to set times this evening, David Miller and James Duckworth, will be starting from the rear of the grid. And it's going to be a very long race tonight, David. We have quite a big pit window as well, so it's going to be very interesting to see how the strategy plays out here tonight.
Yep, exactly. Race is going to start in maybe about 15 seconds time, but as you say, one pit stop expected for fuel and tires. That's normal because in this car, the tires can be changed while the fuel is filling.
Absolutely right. They can get those done very quickly, but they won't be worrying about that for a little while. Right now, they'll be worrying they can get off the starting line here at Road America as the revs rise. The green flag is away, and there's a staller on the grid. Brett Loxton has not gotten away at all, and it looks like we could have a bit of drama in the back of the field there. There is plenty of drama. Cars rolling over. I think that was Brett Loxton who got hit on the grid. But back up at the front of the field, Harley Haber having a bit of a go on the inside of Brady Myers. He's already made himself past Jackson Suslin-Harlow and is now going up the inside at turn number 1. And everyone else starting to shuffle through 2x2 through turn number 2 here. And a fairly clean getaway from the rest of the field. But that was very unfortunate for Brett Loxton there, David.
Yep, exactly. And that concrete wall exactly on the right-hand side of the start-finish straight means there was nowhere for some of those cars behind to go. And I definitely see that Ross Rizzo has picked up a significant amount of front-end damage from that, though he has managed to get through and continue.
Yeah, that is very much a shame. We'll get a replay of the start for you on screen now, ladies and gentlemen, as we see Brett Loxton, who was stalled on the grid there, and yeah, just absolutely got absolutely destroyed in that. And we've also just heard that Guy Leach has possibly blown an engine on his car as well. So a couple of contenders out of this race already. But luckily up at the front, Harley Haber is doing his best efforts to put on a good show here as he just comes sliding out of the long right-hander there, turn number 10, and he's really starting to look quite aggressive and looking to move up to the back of the front of the train here, following Sam Sutton, who's just tucked in behind Sam Blacklock, and Madison Down, who's got some nice clear air ahead of him. And it's going to be interesting to see here at Road America. Very technical circuit, and there are so many long straights. It's very critical to make sure that you're getting the right entry into some of these corners. We can just see there's Sam Blacklock just running a little bit wide on the entry into the penultimate corner there. And now Sam Sutton's got a little bit of a run on him. The slipstream's really going to come into effect quite a bit throughout this race. Be interesting to see quite a few guys saving some fuel and really reducing their time in the pits as well. It'll be very interesting to see if guys can be using that to their advantage. But down into turn number 1 now, I think that's Mario, Zach Baker, getting a move done there on Jamie McKnight. He's part of a little group of cars there, including Mario Vlasic, who are all suffering from a little bit of damage there, which is probably caused from that incident at the beginning of the race involving Brett Loxton. But those guys are usually pretty quick and always keen to have a bit of a race, and we can see already Mario Vlasic now pulling out to the inside as they come down into turn number 1. Just ahead of them, Brenton O'Brien and Scott Soslowski having a little bit of a battle there. Scott gets that move done. Scott and Jamie McKnight losing a position to Mario Vlasic there as well. But we'll take you back up to the front of the field because Harley Haber and Sam Sutton are getting very close. Harley Haber, who started in 7th, already up into 4th position and already looking very aggressive on the back of Sam Sutton now. He's got some really good car speed early on in this race, but not quite able to do anything at the moment. It's really carrying some nice mid-corner speed, and the car's looking very comfortable, especially in that mid-corner. Really looks like he's able to use that traction on the entry as well. That car very pointy. Oh my goodness, big moment as they come through the kink right-hander there for Harley Haber, and doing a good job to keep it all gathered up there and not spearing himself off into the wall. But as we see, David, when these guys are driving these cars, it's often very much on edge, and sometimes it actually looks, or it feels in the car a lot safer than it actually looks from the outside. Yeah, we're just having some technical issues with David Haynes there, ladies and gentlemen, so we'll see if we can get him back going shortly. But at the moment, Madison Down still leads this race. He's got a just half a second advantage over the moment of Sam Blacklock, and Sam Sutton still tucked in behind there as well. Jackson Suslin Harlow, who I would have expected to really been up there with Harley Haber. Those guys have been matched so evenly the last few races. It's not quite able to match the pace of his rival at the moment, but just behind them, Kurt Stenberg now coming under a lot of pressure from Thomas McMillan, who got a really nice exit out of turn number 2 there. And we'll see if he has a little bit of a look down the inside at turn number 3 there. Harley Haber just ahead, showing the nose there, just a little bit of intention, trying to scare off Sam Sutton up ahead, but neither of them deciding to go for a move here. And down to turn 3 is going to be a big opportunity for a lot of people. Justin Wallace having a look and making himself past Jamie McKnight, who's dropped a significant amount of positions just in the last couple of laps. He's lost positions to Mark Samuel and Zach Baker also. And Mario Vlasic has also moved himself past Zach Baker, and Brenton O'Brien will be his next target coming up for Mario Vlasic. But sounds like we have David Haynes back, which is good because I'm not going to be able to do this entire race by myself. It's going to be a 70-minute race tonight, so we're going to have a lot of talking to do for you, but there's plenty of action on track. And as I was saying, David, Harley Haber looking like he's got some really good pace early on in this race.
Precisely, as aggressive as a pink race car can ever look. Harley Haber's getting that nose very close to Sam Sutton in front, and once again through that section there, second to last corner. Lots of slip angle, plenty of slide, but he's making it work. Let's just see if he can hold on to those tyres, because he'll need to stretch this stint out at least somewhat, and then the second stint he'll also need to hold on to the tyres there. Long race, and that car's looking pretty quick though. Harley Haber might fancy a podium.
Yeah, I think he's definitely looking strong for a podium at the moment, and we expect that these cars are going to be able to go about 22 laps on fuel this evening. So if he can keep those tyres in check for just a little while longer, we'll probably expect guys coming in as a Sam Sutton. Oh, there's a big there on Blacklock, the championship leader, who has a big moment. It gets completely sideways, and now Harley Haber, well, we were saying he's looking for a podium. He wants to not just be on the last step of the podium, he wants to move himself up at least into middle territory for the time being. He's going to have to go the long way round into turn number 3, though. Committed on the brakes, committed to the outside line, but Sam Sutton's going to have the inside line at the next corner and gets that defensive move completed anyway, and is not going to have to defend anymore. But that was pretty cheeky there from Sutton. Sam did run a little wide into turn number 2 there, and kind of opened the door up. So now he's got a little bit of work to do. Harley Haber down the inside on Sam Sutton. Very nice move there, and getting it done just before that right-hander, which is pretty critical because Harley's been held up by Sam the last couple of laps in this long right-hander here. He's been looking very strong through this section, so very nice job to get that move done before the critical part of the circuit for him. And now those two TTL cars, Brady Myers and Sam Sutton, are together, and we'll see how they go together and see if Harley can also pull himself away from Sam, who doesn't look like he's letting him get away too easy at the moment. Side by side as they come into the corner, a bit of a run, and Sam Sutton managing to just keep it all together, but he's going to get passed by everybody, including Sam Blacklock, who he gave the door to earlier. So justice might be served partially there, but now these guys are going to be getting at it, and now very tight there as Sam's looking for a pass away past Jackson, Susel, and Harlow now, and this is going to get pretty spicy here. These three cars have, well, Jackson's a very hard racer, and Sam Blacklock and Sam Sutton have been in the wars already this race, so this could get pretty heated up pretty quickly, David.
It definitely could. Blacklock moves across to defend from Sutton. Blacklock's not quite close enough to threaten Susel and Harlow this time, but boy, are they close there. The big winner in all of that last lap, Harley Haber, up another 2 spots. And also Madison Down pulls out some breathing room, 2.5 seconds, as they fight ferociously back here. Jackson, Susel, and Harlow is going to have a very tough job ahead of him defending Sam Blacklock and Sam Sutton.
Yeah, well, he's already got Sam Blacklock all over the rear bumper of that car and pulling out to the inside for turn number 3, and that looks pretty much job done. See, oh no, Sam going to actually pull back in. Jackson, Susel, and Harlow, they're very committed on the brakes, maybe too committed. Going to hold him up a little bit on the exit there, and Sam Blacklock going to go down the inside, under the bridge, just very squilling on the rear brakes there. Jackson keeping it round the outside. He'll have the inside line for this next corner, and Sam Blacklock has to tuck back in and might go for the move that Harley Haber went for last time around, down the inside at, I believe that's turn number 8 there, and doing a good job. Bit of a rub as he came back across the nose of Susel and Harlow there, and look how much this has checked this pack up now. We've got 8 odd cars, or 6 at least, odd cars in this pack here, and Jackson, Susel, and Harlow gets pushed to the outside. That's going to allow Sam Sutton through, and now Kurt Stenberg looking for a way past as well. He's tucked in right in there with Thomas McMillan, Ross Rizzo, and Chris Coxhead all there as well. All very good aggressive races just behind them. Steve Jansen having a big moment too, but at the moment it looks like Susel and Harlow's going to be able to hold off that little pack just for the time being, and a bit of a loss there for him on this lap, but he's a very aggressive racer, and he's really going to be giving it to those guys as they try and come through in the next couple of laps.
And now for second place, Brady Myers for TTL Esports, doing a very good job sticking with Harley Haber from Redback Racing Team, and they're coming down the main straight, crossing the finish line now to start lap 6. And Brady Myers has a fantastic run at Harley Haber. Harley Haber holds the inside. They're going to go too wide into turn 1. Brady Myers, pinches down a little bit, teeny bit of contact. He'll take some of the grass there, lose out, but he will just hold on to that position ahead of Sam Sutton and Nat Pack.
I think We've got, oh, there's a huge crash in the back of the field, and that's the championship leader involved in a massive accident. We'll get a replay of that for you. Oh, no! Oh, Brenton O'Brien. What a job he did there of avoiding Sam Blacklock as he came onto the track, because that was very clumsy there from the man leading the championship. And we have a replay on screen for you, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Blacklock going over and under on Sam Sutton through turn number 1, and big contact on the exit. And those guys, oh, all of that pack, with the exception of Kurt Stenberg, of whom which the Red Sea did part 4, and he has just absolutely gotten away with that like you wouldn't believe. But all those other cars involved, Sutton, Harlow, Coxhead had to avoid there as well, and Blacklock, who lost out the most out of everybody there. That was a massive accident for all of those guys, and that has just changed the dynamic of this top 10 massively.
Yep, they were all together in a pack, and that's really separated it out. Ross Rizzo, also a big loser in that one, taking his second big hit of the race, dropped him well and truly down the order now on 27th. So it's Madison down leads from Harley Haber. Brady Myers once again trying to close that gap down almost within a second. Kurt Stenberg in fourth, then for 5th. And further down, 9th and 10th is Jansen, Szyslowski, and Sam Sutton.
Yeah, that's it's really thrown this top 3 now. These guys have massive breathing room. I mean, there's got to be at least 4 seconds back to Kurt Stenberg now, who's got Thomas McMillan and Chris Coxhead fighting behind them. In fact, drag racing down the main straight here at Road America, and it's definitely the National Park of Speed for Chris Coxhead, because he's got plenty of speed as he comes down that front straight, and he's going to overtake Thomas McMillan very easily in that All-Star Motorsports car before they even get to the corner. So job done for Chris Coxhead. Moves himself up into 5th position there. So very nice job from him. And we've got championship leader Blacklock is in the pits. I suspect that he will have some damage there from that incident, and he's definitely outside the pit window at the moment. So we'll see if he comes back. But Jackson, Susan Harlow, and Scott Solosky now having a bit of a battle down the back straight. And Solosky going to go down the inside and manages to just pull it up. Harlow, though, sticking it round the outside, and is probably going to try once again, trying to push Solosky very much to the inside of the track there. And that might almost not pay off for Harlow there, because he's actually going to have to run 2 wide, but they're going to go 2 by 2 through this section again. They've got Sutton and Jansen following them as well, and it looks like Kyle Stokes might want to get in on this on Sam Sutton too, trying to go down the inside. Sutton's going to try and go through on Jansen, who just runs a little bit wide there, but not going to be able to do anything with it for the time being. Going to have to hold behind through this long right-hander in turn 9 and 10. But these guys are all really battling here, and Scott Solosky started 16th up into 9th right now, so +7 positions after all that drama. He's done really well so far. And another person who's kind of slipped through the radar at the moment as well, James Mackay, from 12th into 7th, and really just crept his way through into the top 10 very nicely there. So Stokes now goes down the inside on Sutton. Can't quite get it done though. He's going to have to try and make it work somewhere else. These guys have been racing very closely all evening. A little bit of a bump there. Kyle Stokes pushing Sam Sutton up the hill as they come through that left-hander there. And this is a very difficult corner, especially in a V8 Supercar, and especially to get the traction nicely as you come through the exit of that corner. And you can see Kyle Stokes, has lost a little bit of ground there, but a man who hasn't lost any ground is Scott Solosky. He's got massive overspeed on Jackson, Susel, and Harlow as they come down the main straight. And unfortunately for Harlow there, that is not going to be defendable, just not quite able to keep up that top speed with all that damage that he has to the front of that machine.
Steve Jansen will be next to line up, and with how much that car is hurting in a straight line for Jackson, Susel, and Harlow, this could be a slam dunk for Jansen. He'll definitely get in the draft right now, closing it up. Jackson, Susel, and Harlow defends the inside, and Jansen backs out of it a bit there. That's an interesting one. All of that brings Sam Sutton right in, and he dives to the inside.
Yeah, nice job there from Sam Sutton. Very nice opportunistic move there. And as you said, Steve Jansen was being very tentative on that move there. Didn't really want to commit to it. And Steve Jansen, he's got himself up into pretty much a top 10 position now, which is not too bad by his standards. So maybe not trying to push the envelope too much at this stage. We are coming into the pit window very shortly, and he might have a strategy up his sleeve that doesn't involve getting into a fight with these guys, especially if he's going to be using extra tire, which he doesn't want to be using. And these guys have all been in incidents, and they're pretty fast, so he might just be eyeing on caution being the better part of valor there, and just hoping that
it's going to line up Jackson Harlow. Sorry to jump across you there, but he's got a great run. He's looking to the inside for Canada corner. He backs out of it just this time, but we've seen that Sam Sutton can be very, very bold under brakes, and Harlow goes in deep, so Sam Sutton gets the traction on the inside of the corner. That makes him look very, very clever, not diving for the inside, but setting up the over-under.
Yeah, but also applying that pressure to get Jackson Harlow to the Jackson Suzlin Harlow there to make that mistake, and then to position the car correctly to capitalize on it. It's a very nice job there from Sam Sutton. So
Harlow has to defend again down the main straight. Steve Jansen goes to the outside. He gets just clear. The corner will be his. What can Kyle Stokes do? He's just going to wait in line. Already up 10 positions from where he started. He'll make it 11 sooner rather than later, I would guess, though.
Yeah, and I think that he knows that it's an inevitability for him. He's going to get past. And it looks like Suzlin Harlow is struggling. And
back up to 6th place, though, because Thomas McMillan is having to defend from James McKee, who goes to what's going to be the outside for that corner. McMillan's really struggling for straight line speed there. He's got something under brakes, so look at that tail wiggle. Very, very committed to try and hold the inside. And again, they're still side by side here, Zach.
Yeah, nice job from these two guys, and they'll probably go side by side again through the next two corners, because it's definitely somewhere where you can do it. And Thomas McMillan's probably looking for the inside line at the next corner. He's going to have to work hard, and doesn't look like Mackay there is going to give him any room on the exit, which is going to kill the plan there of Thomas McMillan, who I dare say wanted to go down the inside of this turn, turn number 8. And he's got his teammate Scott Solosky in those two ASM cars. Probably don't want to get held up too much by James here, and unfortunate there that McMillan wasn't able to get the move done, because he's now going to be holding up his teammate, and these guys really want to start getting a move up to Chris Coxhead ahead of James here, because I mean, Chris Coxhead's definitely a very strong battler, not always the fastest driver though. And if those two ASM cars can work together, especially Thomas McMillan, fairly fast driver in these V8 supercars, those guys could probably start working as a team and working themselves up onto the back of Coxhead. But James Mackey here doing a very good job of holding both those cars off for the time being.
Yeah, exactly. So going to start, we've just started lap 10, I do believe. No one from our lead pack taking the pit lane this time. Madison Downs staying out, but we are probably next time around just entering the window where the drivers could fuel their cars and make it to the end, I would think.
Yeah, I think we're expecting about lap 11 is the cutoff. We reckon 22 laps of fuel is what these guys can do. And Steve Jansen coming under big pressure now from Sam Sutton. Once again, has Sutton had an issue there that we... Yeah, all right. So he just... Okay, pardon me. I've gotten a little mistaken.
So that damage on the car for Sam Sutton, he's a very good driver, very bold under brakes. But now Kyle Stokes will go to the inside for turn 5. Both of them deep on the brakes. Kyle Stokes maybe a little bit deeper. He'll have the inside for the next corner. Sam Sutton just losing out another couple positions there. Maybe succumbing to the damage on that car. Jackson Susan Harlow still stays at the back of this train, using some of the draft to help his wounded car. And Steve Jansen taking all of the opportunities. So is Kyle Stokes, now up 12 spots, right on the back of Steve Jansen as well.
Yeah, he's doing a good job to hang in there, actually, as Jackson Suzlin Harlow, because we've seen how slow that car is in a straight line. And he's got 3 cars that he can utilize that draft off, so he'll probably be really hoping that he can keep it nice and tight through the corners so that he can keep up with that pack. But Steve Jansen also doing a good job good job to hold off this group of Kyle Stokes and Sam Sutton behind him. And Sutton is really struggling with that car at the moment, as you said.
Jansen got really slidey through the kink, so he's going to have to go to the inside for Canada corner to defend from Stokes, who's so deep on the brakes. Can he pull that one up?
Oh, doesn't look like he can.
Not quite. So he's going to lose out to Sam Sutton again. So a very bold move, not played off. They're going to go side by side. That's a difficult place to do it, but Sam Sutton, he's saying, I'm good enough, I can do that. And Jackson Suzlin-Harlow's going to dive to the inside of Stokes as well. I'm not sure he'll be able to stay with him down this long straight, one of the high-speed sections of the corner. But Kyle Stokes looked like he was going to get to the front of this train, and he's lost out what could have been 2 spots.
Yeah, well, you know, that's what happens. Risk versus reward, and unfortunately, this time the reward was not there for Kyle Stokes. He's going to get past Sam Sutton once again, though, who is very squirrely and just not quite having the bite on those front tires as he went to turn in for one, but did get there in the end. And he's now going to be able to catch back up to Steve Jansen and have another go. But yeah, Sam Sutton's really looking to struggle in that car. And Jackson Suzlin-Harlow won't be too disappointed that these guys are battling. Keeps him in the mix a little bit more. But Brenton O'Brien and Zach Baker are going side by side. And Mark Samuel might have something to do with this as well. He's trying to squeeze himself into a bit of a sandwich here. And I think he might just have to hang out a little bit for that. Brenton O'Brien looks like he's going to maintain that position from Zach Baker, who is trying very hard to get around the outside. Might even have a little bit of a go up the inside, but Brenton O'Brien there covering him off nicely, just chopping him off across the nose there. Didn't quite have enough overlap, but did that Zach Baker there. And Sam Sutton is actually not falling off the back of Kyle Stokes there too much either.
And go to a replay here of Coxhead getting past Kurt Stenberg, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And nice job. He did actually got some nice traction out of turn number 3 there and got the job done. So even after I said Coxhead wasn't really a man who was super fast, he has managed to catch himself up to Kurt Stenberg and get past. Now he puts himself up into 4th position, which is very nicely done for Chris Coxhead indeed. Of course, starting out of 10th position this evening, so he's now up 6 spots with his very nice, albeit with a little bit of attrition, up ahead. But looks like those ASM guys as well have just started to make their way past. In fact, Solosky has made it past James Mackey and also made it past his teammate Thomas McMillan as well. So nicely done from Scott Solosky there. We've seen Scott in the flesh doing his good racing work, David, at the VSR Showdown just a few months ago, and a very talented racer is he. Really likes to get the elbows out and force the issue, and he's done so on his teammate and also on James Mackey there. So he's now going to try and catch up to Kurt Stenberg. He's got a 4-second gap, which he's going to have to work back, but he does have now another 19 laps to get that done. But Zach Baker and Brenton O'Brien out of turn number 2 once again. Zach Baker trying to have a bit of a drag race here, but he's got a bit of aero damage there. He's going to try and cut in to get the slipstream from Brenton O'Brien there, but Mark Samuel's running out of places to go as well. Zach Baker weaving all over the track, trying to find some air that he can use to try and get up alongside Brenton O'Brien, but just not quite able to do it this time around. And James Duckworth, who started in 32nd position, now finds himself on the back of this little train as well. He's currently in 16th position, so he's up 16 spots, already made his way through half of this field, and he's got another 3 cars up ahead of him, and he's looking pretty racy at the moment. And we've seen James in a couple of races this season doing some good work and making himself through the field here, so we'll see if he's able to do anything. And Liam Wilde and Jamie McKnight just having a bit of a battle as well, so there's still plenty of action going down in this lower mid-pack as well, David.
Exactly. As Brenton O'Brien defends hard from Zach Baker, that keeps Mark Samuel and James Duckworth with this pack. James Duckworth's got a much prettier looking car, but these guys are lapping a second a lap slower than Liam Wilde and Jamie McKnight behind. Soon, this is going to become a 6-car train that Brenton O'Brien is leading. And Duckworth goes to the inside on Mark Samuel, gets it stopped, gets the power down pretty well out of Canada corner. That's another position gained for James Duckworth, now up 17 spots.
Yeah, nice job there from James. And seeing now Steve Jansen getting shuffled wide there as he has a battle with Kyle Stokes. In fact, Thomas McMillan is going to lose out to Kyle Stokes there as well. So nice move there from Kyle Stokes. Oh, and Jansen, oh my goodness, nearly lost it under brakes there as he came into turn one. But we do have the first of our cars on the pit lane who we are expecting. We've now got the pit window open. So Sam Sutton's going to be the man to take the plunge and put some fresh rubber, get some brand new Dunlop tires onto his V8 Supercar. And we've seen in this series, David, usually the undercut is pretty impressive here. We could, especially on a long track like Road America, it will be interesting to see how much faster he is. But I would expect that on these fresh Dunlops, he could be as much as a second and a half to 2 seconds a lap faster than most of the guys that he was racing around. So it'll be interesting to see as well when other guys start pulling the trigger, as we see Sam now coming out of the pit lane. And Brenton O'Brien was another man to decide to come into the pits as well. So those guys have bitten the bullet early, and we'll see how they go and see how their lap times track as well.
Yeah, exactly. This is a car that can really chew through a set of tyres, particularly the rear tyres with that effectively locked differential and a very powerful V8 up the front. And so if you grab a new set of tyres, the guys you're racing against around a long, more than 2 minute lap like this will have a long time before they can react to your potential undercut. You can definitely undercut from almost 2 seconds, especially if the guy ahead is really struggling with their tyres. 29-degree track temp, I should say. So not especially brutal on a set of tyres, but the weather's not helping them either.
It's not particularly brutal, but as you said, this is a very long track, and they are gifted with the fact that there aren't too many corners. But in my opinion, a lot of their corners here are very high on load, as we see Jackson Suzlin-Harlow now was battling with Steve Jansen, but Steve Jansen has decided to come into the pit this time around. But Brady Myers and Harley Haber, the two men on the podium at the moment, and it looks like they've actually got a massive gap back to Chris Coxhead, so they can do a little bit of racing now. And it looks like Brady Myers wants to get involved, showing the nose as they come down into turn number 3 there, but just doesn't quite have enough of a... He's not quite close enough to Harley Haber there to make a move on that beautifully liveried red-backed racing machine, of course. And McMillan's gone around, has Thomas McMillan, so we'll see what's happened there.
And that car's crabbing badly now. So that's been on the exit of turn 2/turn 3. All by himself. He turns it in early, gets too much grass on the inside of the corner, loops it around. Maybe it was crabbing before that as well, and that's why he's looped it. It's a very second-hand looking Ford Falcon right there.
Yeah, well, he's been involved in a couple of things, and you can see him just throwing the car around at the moment. The attitude of that car is, bizarre at best. Not sure if it's really crabbing massively, but it definitely doesn't look like he's having a fun time with that car. Harley Haber, though,
he's got to defend around the outside of Canada corner from Brady Myers, who pulled half a second out of him last lap. They're going to be side by side. Haber will have the inside. I don't think Myers will lift out of this, though. And he just manages to hold the momentum around the outside. Haber will probably look to the inside of the final corner. No, he doesn't. He stays right there. Will either of these guys choose to pit? Looks like they're staying out again this time. So Harley Haber, Brady Myers staying out. Great battle there through almost 3 corners side by side.
Yeah, it's interesting that neither one of them
Haber's coming back at him, though.
He's coming back, but he's just been covered off there nicely by Brady. But I would really expect one of these guys to come in pretty soon. But I think Sam Sutton, we've got an issue for Sam Sutton. We'll investigate and get back to you on that shortly. But Harley Haber is he's struggling a little bit now. I would expect him to come into the pits and try and get an undercut fairly soon, as we're just seeing what happened to Sam Sutton there, and it looks like
hurry downs. He's just gone straight on into the gravel track and towed it. So that's a very bizarre one for that.
Yeah, possibly a bit of frustration there. It looked like his car wasn't behaving particularly well, and Brady Myers has to defend down the inside. Turn 4 from, there's big contact. Harley Haber on the grass. Brady Myers just keeping it together.
Tap again.
There's more contact, and Brady Myers gets shoved off the track there by Harley Haber. And we'll get a replay of that, but it looks like Harley Haber is now carrying some damage to the front of that redback racing machine, and just got pushed out a little bit wide as he did try to come back across onto the track, and then trying to that was never going to work as they were coming on back onto the track there. So we'll see how those guys sort each other out. It looks like possibly, it doesn't look like Brady's got any damage to his car, so he might have gotten away with that. But we've seen even with minor amounts of damage on McMillan's car, on Haber's car, on Suzlin Harlow's car, it can really affect the overall pace. So we'll have to see if Harley Haber starts dropping off a bit here, and if Brady can manage to catch back up to him, because it does look like Harley's missing the front fender panel on the left-hand corner of that car.
Yeah, it's a weird and unique beast, and I imagine some of these two guys, Haber and Myers, might consider the pit lane. Harley Haber goes for it. We've seen some of these cars missing entire body panels, not lose a whole bit of pace, and have minor dents and lose almost a second a lap as Myers locks up the rears coming onto the pit lane. Madison Downs stays out in the lead, but second and third place take the pit lane. So does Stenberg from fifth, but Coxhead stays out from fourth place.
Yeah, Coxhead's got a little bit of breathing room there, but he will have to probably worry about Stenberg if he doesn't come in this lap. Still has a few laps in the tank, but we are pretty much bang on the halfway mark here for the race this evening. So it would not be at all surprising if we saw Chris Coxhead coming in the next lap and just covering that off. But Madison Downs going to be very happy with what's happening at the moment. He's possibly a little bored even, sitting so far out the front there. He had a 6.5 second advantage before Haber and Myers came into the pit lane, but it's going to be even better than that, I would imagine. We'll see these guys coming out of the pits now, and it looks like Brady's going to beat Harley Haber off the pit lane by a significant margin there. That looks like it could be at least maybe 2.5 to even 3 seconds, and the pit lane times do reflect that as well. Looks like it's 3.1 seconds the difference as they come out of the pit lane there. So Brady Myers doing an efficient job, being tucked up behind Haber for that long, possibly just being able to save fuel and not having to put as much in on that stop. And maybe Harley Haber, his car's actually looking better after that pit stop. Maybe he decided to take a couple of seconds of optionals to reduce that overall race time as well.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. It's also possible that Brady Myers is running that fuel number as fine as he possibly can. I'm looking for some battles up and down the field, and Jamie Stovall is trying to hold off Damian Johnston for what's been elevated to 8th and 9th position, because these two haven't pitted yet.
Yeah, that's right, and they'll be looking pretty good for the time being. James Stovall, not a name that I've seen much in this series, but he's doing a good job at the moment. He did start in 27th position, and obviously he still has to pit, but currently sitting in 12th. It looks like, oh, that car behind him, Damian Johnston. Oh my goodness, that was so close to an accident. Damian maybe needs to shift the brake bias a little more forward. Seems like he got very locked up on the rears there and just managed to pull that car up before he absolutely careered himself into the car of Jamie Stovall there. So very lucky for those guys that he did manage to, and we'll just get a replay on board with Damian as those two cars are actually coming into the pits now. But Damian very hard on the brakes and just losing it a little bit there, managing to just keep it all together. I think Jamie might even gone a little bit wide to maybe saw that coming and tried to avoid the accident. So good driving from both of those guys to keep it all on the tarmac, and they'll now come into the pit lane and they'll cycle out shortly. So we'll see where those guys end up in the midst of it. But
Scott Kozlowski and James McKee also coming down to grab a pit stop. So only a few cars out there that haven't taken service yet. That's Madison Down, Chris Coxhead, Jackson Suzlin Harlow, James Duckworth, Liam Wild, and Brady Myers. No, sorry, yes, just those 5 cars having not taken a pit stop.
Yeah, and I believe I believe that Kurt Stenberg's actually gotten through on, or James, yeah, he's gotten through on James Mackey and Scott Solosky. He was obviously ahead of those guys before the pit stop phase started, but it actually seems like James and Scott have actually made up quite a significant bit of ground on Kurt Stenberg there in that pit stop cycle. So I'm not sure if Kurt's had a pretty average. His last lap was a fairly average lap. He's only been on those tires for a couple of laps. So yeah, have to see how he goes there, but doesn't look like he's doing too well at the moment. And James Mackey and Scott Solosky both been showing excellent pace throughout this race. And they'll obviously still have to... Oh no, they've just pitted, obviously. So they're now down in fact, Scott Solosky's into 10th position, which is actually excellent for him. He's up 6 positions, but he's also probably going to gain a couple, possibly when some of these guys come into the pits as well. Liam Wilde, as you said, James Duckworth also still to pit, and so is Jackson Suslin-Harlow, who is actually in the pit lane right now. So he's one of the last guys to take to the pit lane, and we'll see if they can possibly find a new bonnet for him on the other side of the pit wall there, and see if he can get one attached and pick up some more pace, because Jackson Suslin-Harlow has been very good in this series so far, and it'd be good to see him doing a little more. But Mark Samuel now is getting caught up by Zach Baker, who's been looking very good throughout this race. And in fact, Zach Baker was a man who was missing a bonnet earlier, and his pit crew has managed to find one for him, and he's subsequently now found a little bit of pace and has pulled himself
with
up
tires that are 3 laps new. I'm very sorry to cut across you there, but that's part of the reason Zach Baker's clawing in Mark Samuel here, I'm sure, is he stayed out a bit later. He's got a new set of tires that have got 3 less laps on them. That's bordering on 20 kilometers less around a very long lap like this. And Zach Baker's car's looking a little bit stronger in a straight line as well. It's not going to threaten into turn 1, but he's certainly well and truly established in the mirrors of Mark Samuel.
Yeah, absolutely. And his car's looking very planted. I think Zach Baker got caught up in a earlier incident, so he's been doing a good job to move himself forward. He did start 21st, and he has moved himself up into, as it stands at the moment, 15th position. So doing a very nice job so far. Just up ahead of them, Jackson Suslin-Harlow has come out just behind Brenton O'Brien, who is, I believe, one of the last cars to have not pitted also.
O'Brien's taken service. O'Brien has taken a pit stop, but he's gone and locked up his inside tyre into turn 5. And that's let Jackson Suslin-Harlow close it up a little bit, even though he's probably still missing some straight line speed in that MF Racing car. He's very good on the brakes. He's very good through the twistier bits, including the carousel that we're coming up to right now, which is one of the places he's looked very strong. It's a long, very long sweeping corner, and that can be difficult in a car like this, which is difficult on the throttle, difficult on the brakes. Brenton O'Brien gets the late apex, picks up the throttle pretty well, but now they come towards the kink, another place you've got to be absolutely committed in this car.
Yeah, it's very hard to get this car turned while you're on throttle. I mean, it's very easy to turn it too much, but to get it to turn just the right amount that you want it is very difficult indeed, because it's so hard when you have both of those wheels essentially spinning at the same speed all the time to not get those wheels to spin up as you're trying to apply them as you're coming out of a corner. But he's doing a good job at the moment, is Jackson Suslin-Harlow.
He's inside of the final corner. Brenton O'Brien got a little bit squirrely through the preceding little kink, and a second invitation did not need to be sent for this party to Jackson Suslin-Harlow. But again, we see he goes side by side and he doesn't have the straight line speed. Brenton O'Brien weaves a little bit, trying to break that draft because he knows he's got more straight line speed. But it seems inevitable. Jackson Suslin-Harlow is just too good on the brakes, too good through the twisty bits. We see that once again through turn 1.
Yeah, I think he's really going to have to, probably after turn number 3, I think if he can get a move done down into 3 and he can make it through that nice tight technical section through the middle of the track and towards the end, if he can build out enough of a gap there, he might just be able to pull away from Brenton O'Brien. But it is going to be very difficult with that. But Stokes has just gone through there on, I believe that's Steve Jansen. So Nice job there from from Kyle to get the move done down into turn number 3 there. But yeah, Jackson Suzlin-Harlow still struggling to get past Brenton O'Brien. Didn't get past at turn 3. Very much on the rear bumper though, and looking for a way past, driving very aggressively and keeping himself in the mirrors of the Evolution team racing man, the big boss man down at Evolution Racing Team. And good to see him out and enjoying himself in a race with another talented driver here at Road America. But he's gonna have to watch out that these guys don't battle too much, because Brenton's
down and
probably
in the pit lane, so our leader comes down for some pit service as this battle continues on behind.
Yes, and he's actually done a good job to go that long. 19 laps, definitely a very good effort there. So now everyone else, Chris Coxhead as well, as you said, is in, and as is Liam Wild, and I believe those were the last 3 guys to not pit. So job done for everyone in the pit lane now, and now they just have to get to the end with the tyres and the fuel that they have remaining. But Brenton O'Brien still doing a great job here to hold off Jackson Suzlin-Harlow. We'll see if he goes for a move down into the final corner once again. Just not quite close enough, and he definitely looking very strong through that final corner. It was very surprising he was able to come from so far back last time.
And I'll tell you something, as these guys fight, Mark Samuel and Zach Baker close up a second lap as well.
And I think as well, and a man who's on the move is Harley Haber, who didn't do quite as well in the pit stop phase as Brady Myers. Well, he started to do better in the second stint of the race, because he's clawing himself back at the moment.
His own personal best lap is what he just set at a 2-minute 8.649 compared to a 209.2 for Brady Myers. That makes Harley Haber the fastest car on track out there right now. Maybe helped by that Madison Down has just completed an outlap from the pits, but that's not to take away from Harley Haber, who is flying and now inside the mind of Brady Myers, who's going to know that sooner rather than later, that Redback Racing Team car is going to be right there. So I think that's Sam Blacklock, who's come out of the pits, staying right offline through the carousel. Yeah,
I think it's a good job from Sam to keep out of the way there. I think he might just be parading around before he waits to come into the commentary booth at the end of the broadcast this evening, because he's the man who's pretty much got this championship all wrapped up. But Harley Haber, as you were saying, he's really picked up a gear here. 0.6 of a second last lap to catch himself up to Brady, and he's been looking very strong. And I wonder if the fuel that, or the difference in pit stop time there, is affecting how Brady's having to drive the car in this second stint. But it definitely looks like Harley Haber is a man who is on maximum attack, and he has closed up that gap once again quite dramatically. And that car looking very good in a straight line. He's, as we said, he got that panel damage repaired in the pit stop, and look at the overspeed. He might even do it into turn 1 here. He's going to go down to the inside. He's going to brake very late. He's going to go 2x2 through turn number 1. Brady Myers, though, not going to give it up. He's going to have to hold it around the outside at turn number 2, though, which is definitely a feat which will not be easy. He will have the better exit. Oh, gives him a bit of a bump through the middle of the corner there as a little bit of a thank you. But yeah, Harley Haber is through, and looks like he's got the straight line speed to keep that position as well.
Yeah, Brady Myers tried to cut back across and go underneath, but Harley Haber using the free parking on the apex there. Brady Myers, brave on the brakes. Is he silly? Will Harley Haber be able to get the traction down and get him back? No. So, wow, fantastic under brakes from Brady Myers there. Grabbed second place back from Harley Haber. And both of these guys pitted on the same lap, so their tires are the same age.
Yeah, I think Harley actually thought that Brady might have been going for a bit of an excursion there and was trying to get out of the way. I don't think Harley was at all confident that Brady Myers was going to be able to pull that one up. But he did manage to do so, and I have to say I was surprised myself. So nice job there by Brady to keep it all in check and get himself back position number 2. But these guys are going to be fighting very intently, I think, for the next few laps. Another group which is starting to have a little bit of a battle going on as well. Kurt Stenberg is being caught by James Mackey, who has been catching him bit by bit, 0.2 of a second the last time around. So just marginally faster, but that gap down to now 0.6 of a second. So a couple of tenths here and there, and those guys will be looking at each other very closely with 12 laps still left to go in this race. And I think quite a few guys are going to be starting to become mentally drained at this point. We've seen quite a few guys going side by side through a lot of corners together, and really does bring the heart rate up, and it does expend a lot of your, I guess, your mental fatigue. Definitely drains the brain when you're racing for so long and so closely as well. These two guys, though, Kurt Stenberg and James Mackey, they haven't been fighting too much, just been pumping in laps, so be interesting to see what happens when they get in.
Havers grabbed second place back again from Brady Myers, and that was into the turn 1 just then. Harley Haber getting a bit more overlap done. I don't think the move is done forever, though, because Brady Myers is sticking with him this time. He's going to look to the outside of what the circuit calls turn 5. And this time, Harley Haber defends the inside. He's not going to be fooled by Brady Myers going super deep on the brakes. Once again, manages to hold it this time. These two, I think, will fight till the end of the race, though.
Yeah, I think unless there's a little bit of what we saw earlier, where one of them ends up pushing the other off the track. But they do have to be careful because they are battling quite furiously, and it is affecting their lap times quite immensely. 2-minute 10.1 for both of these guys last time round. The man behind, Chris Coxhead, at 2:08.8, so that's 1.3 seconds. And that's a good point, 4 laps fresher tires. So if these guys keep battling and Chris keeps catching at the rate that he's catching at, he's going to be with them within just a handful of laps. Which is really going to put into question that final podium position, because I thought these guys had it done, but if they keep on fighting like this for the rest of the race, it's definitely not a done deal.
Yeah, precisely. If it goes how it has the last couple of laps, it could only be 3 or 4 laps before Chris Coxhead is right on them. Harley Haber has had to fight to get back ahead of Brady Myers, and Brady Myers has defended with all of his might, and that will use up their tires as these guys push it right to the ragged edge. But while we were watching that, Jackson Susan-Harlow's gotten past Brenton O'Brien. So Brenton O'Brien struggling a little bit, but not as much as Jackson Susan-Harlow has with the straight line speed. Those two guys, that was a very interesting battle.
Yeah, but good job from Jackson to manage to get past. Something else I've just noticed as well, Chris Coxhead is he's actually doing tremendously well in terms of his lap time. The race leader at the moment, Madison Down, at 2:08.8, and Chris Coxhead at 2:09 flat. So he's actually only lapping 0.2 slower than the race leader at the moment. And once again, was 0.7 of a second he made up on Harley Haber, 1.4 seconds that he made up on Brady Myers that time around. So he's definitely starting to claw back. And I'm just watching Jackson Susan-Harlow as well. Once again, Brenton O'Brien, if he keeps it nice and tidy through turn number 2 here, I think he's going to have enough straight line speed to possibly have another go down into what I call turn number 3, even though the track says it's turn number 5. And Brenton has about...
It's confusing like that, isn't it?
It is a little bit, but there are so many circuits that we have to go to where it's like that. And did have about a 5-car gap, did Brenton O'Brien. He's managed to cut that in half down the end of the straight, but unfortunately it's just not close enough. These guys behind, though, Mark Samuel and Zach Baker and James Duckworth, actually having a go down the inside of Mark Samuel there, and will get the job done. So nice move there by Duckworth. And James Duckworth is the man who's been doing fairly well for himself. He won the Split 2 race yesterday evening for V8 Scops, so another one of the gentlemen who are very well versed in this circuit this evening, and he's up from 32nd now into 13th position after getting that move done on Mark Samuel. And with Zach Baker and Brenton O'Brien just up the road, and Jackson Susan-Harlow's as well, he could be looking at a top 10 here from starting outside 30th.
Yeah, starting dead last on the grid, and you're exactly right. It's entirely within the realms of possibility. James Duckworth could make his way up to 10th place. What with the struggles Brenton O'Brien is having, Zach Baker is having, and the damage on Jackson Susan-Harlow's car. Those guys are all doing 2:11.10s, 2-minute 11s. James Duckworth with a 2:09.7 last time, so he's clawing time out of them in a car that's looking very clean. Most of the panels looking rather straight, in contrast to plenty of the other cars in front of him.
And that's even more impressive when you consider how many cars he passed this evening. I'm sure that there's been a little bit of attrition which has helped him get himself up into that position, but that being said, he's been definitely putting in a monster effort to get himself through that field, and we have seen him do a few passes. Just to run through quickly a couple of people who have exited this race already. Mario Vlasic left us 5 laps ago. Thomas McMillan as well stopped on circuit 7 laps ago. Sam Sutton is out of the race. Sam Blacklock still circulating, but 8 laps down. Christian Smart, Ross Rizzo, David Miller, Brett Loxton, Michael Taliancic, and Guy Leach all out of this race, which is almost a third of the field. Only 22 cars, actually 23 if you include Sam Blacklock, still circulating around the track at the moment out of the 32 that started. So that's a fairly big number of cars that have fallen out of this race, but at a place like Road America that's so it's kind of one of those old school American circuits where it can bite you so easily. I guess it's not particularly surprising.
Yeah, exactly. And Zach Baker, well, he's got James Duckworth, a man on an absolute mission here tonight, closing right up. He's gotten that gap closed up, and now James Duckworth looking at 12th position. They're coming through the kink right now, and that's one of those places where it's difficult, but if you get the momentum strong through there, if you get a good exit like James Duckworth has, then it really benefits you down this straight towards Canada Corner. Duckworth's very, very close. He looks the nose about half a car width to the inside, doesn't go for it, looks the inside tire a little bit, gets a bit trigger happy on the throttle, stays very close to Zach Baker and could make a move into turn 1. This is a good one to watch.
Yeah, he's definitely looking very strong, and if he can keep it nice and smooth through this final corner here, he definitely will have a nice run onto the straight. He's done a nice job there. Zach Baker didn't get the worst exit, but we can already see that car of Duckworth just starting to reel him in. Gap down to about a car length, closing. Gonna pull out to the inside, does Duckworth. He's gonna have to be pretty committed on the brakes as they come up to the door, and Zach Baker makes that move pretty easy for Duckworth there. Might even try and come back. Will Baker down into turn number 2, but not quite able to make that work. So nice work there from Duckworth. We've got him now hunting on Brenton O'Brien, but a man who's been really moving, and we've been talking about this in the last couple of laps in the race. Chris Coxhead, another 7/10 of a second on Brady Myers, and Harley Haber has actually started to check out a little bit from Brady up the front of the field, but Chris Coxhead is starting to close in, and by my calculations, if he can keep up that momentum, can Chris Coxhead on Brady Myers, he will catch him before the end of the race, but he's really going to have to keep on pushing here, and be interesting to see if he can really conserve those tires and keep up the pace to have enough at the end to have a go at Brady if he does make it up there.
And now he's past Zach Baker. James Duckworth pulled 8 seconds out of Brenton O'Brien ahead, and a couple tenths out of Jackson Suzlin Harlow. 8 laps to go. I certainly think James Duckworth will at least get to the bumper of Brenton O'Brien. I reckon a pass is possible as well. Absolute charge through the field here from James Duckworth. Fantastic to watch as well.
Yeah, he's been doing a very good job. But looking, we might as well see if we can give Madison down a little bit of screen time here, because you have to give full credit to him. He has a 12-second lead over the rest of the field right now, and he must, I think he almost must feel like there aren't any other cars on track, because I doubt that he's really seen any as he's been circulating around. That TTR machine, though, looking very good in the Momo colors there, and good to see an Australian team with such a well-known sponsor world throughout, as we see many teams in this field with some fantastic sponsors. Obviously, Evolution Racing Team have some fantastic sponsors. Good to see the Breast Cancer Foundation getting on board with Redback Racing as well, with Harley Haber's car there. Nice to see those kind of I dare say, a one-off, but a special edition livery for that car with a great cause. And some other fantastic looking cars around the circuit as well. Another good looking car of Kurt Stenberg in the Apex Replicas car, Trans-Tasman Racing there. He is being caught by James Mackey, and
also Scott Sazlowski though is pulling the two of them in, so this is sort of concertinaing up. Kurt Stenberg going backwards into James Mackey, going backwards into Scott Sazlowski. That's one of the things that happens in these longer races with the different tyre strategies is, you know, some of them pit different times, take different amounts of fuel, but then the drivers who pit later lose out on the undercut, have fresher tyres to come back later. Towards the later stages of the race, the field can almost close up again. James Duckworth is doing exactly that to Brenton O'Brien as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Kurt Stenberg does have the oldest tyres out of these guys as well. But Steve Jansen's actually just gotten past Kyle Stokes as they came through the kink there. Very nice move, but Stokes is going to have a move back, try around the outside into Canada corner. Going to hope Jansen can pull it up on the inside, just locks the inside brake there. Does Kyle Stokes, and Jansen's going to be able to come back at him. He's going to have to hold it tough around the outside through turn number 12. Does a nice job though, does Jansen. Stokes might have a look down the inside here, show the nose just to cause Jansen to just be a bit nervous on the entry into the final corner there, but he's not going to do it, and Jansen gets a nice exit, so maintains that that overtake.
And Duckworth is by O'Brien as well.
Yeah, nice job from Duckworth, and he's actually got the move done already as they now come down the main straight. So Brenton O'Brien making it very easy for James Duckworth to come through. So Duckworth, the man on a mission, he's up in 11th position now, and Stokes and Jansen once again side by side as they come into turn number 2, and Stokes going to get a little bit of an over-under here, gets the better exit speed. Looks like he's going to be just pushing. He's going to come out to the outside now, and outside line, not the preferred line down here into turn number 3. He's going to try and make it work though. He might break a little early or very late and go way around the outside, and he's going to just run a little bit wide, take a little bit of the dirt on the exit there. That's not going to hurt him as he now goes side by side, and we can go side by side through this section here. He's going to have to go around the outside at turn number 8 though, unless he can make it in there. And nice job by Kyle Stokes and Steve Jansen just having to pull out of that. But these guys have been battling for the last couple of laps and been pretty on form with each other. So wouldn't dare say that these guys are over and done whatsoever. But Scott Sazlowski just up ahead as well. It's really pulling in on James Mackey now. That's those 3 cars pretty much have an even split between them. And as you were saying, Scott and James have the fresher tyres here, so they're going to be coming up on Kurt Stenberg very shortly, and this is another battle that could start getting quite interesting as well.
Yeah, there's plenty to look at right now. My timing screen absolutely comes alive with these battles. We've got 5th to 7th, we've got 8th and 9th, we've got 10th through to 12th. I'm not sure where to look, but I reckon a great one right here. Yeah, and Chris Coxhead, as we point out, still, he pulls another 6/10 out of Brady Myers, that one. 6 laps to go. It's down to 2.5 seconds. That's closing. Chris Coxhead doing exactly what he needs to do to potentially grab a podium in the last race of the season.
And Brady Myers has really started to he has started to tighten himself up and get some better lap times down. But as you just said, Chris Coxhead is doing a phenomenal job to really keep reeling that in.
Matching the leaders' times is Chris Coxhead as well.
Exactly, and as he gets closer, it's going to play into the mind of Brady Myers, who might try and push a little too hard to try and maintain that gap, and that could really open it up for him. But now Scott Sazlowski having a little bit of a look there on James Mackey, who's having a look on Kurt Stenberg, who runs wide down into turn number 3, and Mackey gets very loose on the exit. That's going to allow Sazlowski to go round the outside as they come into turn number 6 there, and Sazlowski going to get the job done. So he got up to James Mackey and got the move done very quickly. Kurt Stenberg, the next man on the list for Sazlowski, who's up already from 16th position into 6th. So fantastic job from him, and he's looking to make that a top 5 as well. And you would
Harlow is side by side through the same section of track. Duckworth just gets it done. Susan Harlow tries to cover it over. They go towards the hurry downs. Jackson Susan Harlow will have to stay behind unless he can be crazy under brakes into the next corner, which is something he might have considered, but he doesn't quite do it. So James Duckworth from last, now up into the top 10. Plenty of racing going on, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. And it has to be said, there have been some great drives this evening from several people. James Duckworth, you know, notably up into now 10th position from 32nd. Chris Coxhead as well, doing a phenomenal job to get himself up into 4th.
Fastest out on track right now.
Exactly. And Carl Stokes, 22nd, up into 8th. Scott Solosky, 16th, up into 6th as well. So there's plenty of guys here who are having an absolutely excellent run tonight. And for some of them, it's not over, because Scott Solosky still has Kurt Stenberg in his sights, and Kurt's maintained that gap for the time being. And just having a look, as we said, Chris Coxhead, fastest man on track once again, 0.6 of a second. The gap, 1.7 seconds, 4 laps to go. He's going to have the slipstream in probably a lap and a half. And that's when things are going to start getting really interesting. But as we know, it's one thing to get up next to someone, and it's another thing to pass them. So it'll be yet to be seen if Chris Coxhead still has the tyre life and the fuel to take at it to Brady Myers for the final spot on the podium there.
Solosky is now getting so close to Kurt Stenberg, who's locking up some tyres here, not looking quite as smooth as Scott Solosky, who's definitely got a measured, poised approach to this. Not quite as quick through that little right-hand kink. They'll come down on the brakes, the corner before the carousel, but they haven't dropped James McKee either. So these three battling it out for 5th place. Still plenty of laps to go. Could be anyone's game.
Yeah, I think
Harlow's back past Duckworth as well. So those guys still fighting. There must have been a mistake somewhere for James Duckworth.
Yeah, we'll get a replay on screen for you, and there was a mistake. It was down into what I call turn number 3, and yeah, he just came in too hot on the brakes there, just braked too late, and took it way deep into the sand trap and the runoff area there, and was quite lucky to actually maintain so many positions out of that mistake. But Chris Coxhead now 1.3 seconds behind Brady Myers. Now that gap has come down immensely, and we'll see over the line as they come across now. I'm expecting another 0.5 of a second that time round. 209.8 for Brady Myers and a 209.1 for Chris Coxhead, just a couple of hundred slower than race leader Madison Downs. So Chris Coxhead is really on a charge, and that machine has really come alive in the second half of this race, as the gap now under a second.
Yeah, a pretty similar pit stop time for these two guys, but shorter than almost everyone out there. I wonder, with no one to help him, has Brady Myers have to fuel save a little bit to be confident to get to the end here, or is that just where his pace is?
Yeah, it's hard to say. We've seen guys running out of fuel in the last 100 meters. I think Brendan Hobson.
Huge lock up for Coxhead. Yeah, that's Zach's turn 3. And
that is very unfortunate, because that's a big place to make a mistake. Solosky at turn 3 as well, going on the inside of Kurt Stenberg. A bit of room there, and they're going to go 2 by 2 through the next section of corners as well. Solosky sticks it up the inside, very tight on the apex, just pushes it out a bit wide. Kurt Stenberg has to use all of the exit there, and Scott Solosky going to go round the outside. He'll have the inside for the next corner. James Mackey just behind them, getting nice and loose, as he wants to get involved in a bit of this as well, and looking for a way to maybe try and make a move on Stenberg. But Solosky has the move done, and that is a very nice move indeed. Kurt Stenberg going to try and get back at him, but he's carrying a little bit of damage on that Apex Replicas machine, and doesn't look like he's going to be able to do anything, especially not through the kink. Not close enough for that. So if Solosky can get a nice run through the kink here, he should be able to get away from Kurt Stenberg, because he has been closing in at a fairly rapid pace, and got that move done very nicely as well.
Big drive from Solosky to be up 11 places to put himself in the top 5.
Absolutely, and that is 5th position for him, so an excellent job. He's still got 3 laps to go to see if he can maintain that from Kurt Stenberg there, but the gap up with Brady Myers and Chris Coxhead still hovering around a second. So Chris Coxhead, even with that big mistake down into my turn 3, 2/10 of a second, and Brady Myers, I think, is saving fuel quite a bit. If you go on board with him, you can hear him getting out of the throttle quite substantially before the corners. And as I was saying, we've seen guys run out of fuel in the last 100 meters of the race, notably last week.
And it's uphill too. If you run out of the last corner, you might not even get up the hill to the start-finish line. James Duckworth is coming back massively at Jackson Suslin-Harlow, who's still missing some straight line speed.
Yeah, well, that's not surprising. Jackson Suslin-Harlow has been struggling all race because of those ailments. And James Duckworth, once again, going to have an opportunity to try and get past. It's probably inevitable that he's going to get it done down this next straight here. Takes it nice and easily into turn number 2 there. And, gets a little bit wide on the exit there, which is not going to be ideal. But the amount of car speed that he should have coming down the straight, he might just be able to get that done. And Chris Coxhead once again has shaved off already in this lap 0.4 of a second on Brady Myers as he struggles to make it around this circuit with the amount of fuel that he has left in the tank. And as you said, unless he can really get half, probably to the bottom of the hill on fuel, he's definitely going to get overtaken if he can only get to the bottom of the hill on fuel. But if he doesn't make it any further than that, he may not make it up the hill to even finish this race. So he's going to have to go into minus 100 is Brady Myers to see if he can make it to this race. He's still got 2 laps to go at the completion of this time around. And you can see Chris Coxhead lurking in the background there. Very close now. The gap 0.5 of a second. So... and we'll see how early Brady Myers has to lift out into turn number 1, because the first sector of this track, which is where most of the lifting and coasting would be done in this car, that's where Chris Coxhead's going to make out the time.
Canada corner? No, he doesn't. That one's getting close.
And Coxhead actually into turn 1 was very close and almost went for a move there. So I think down into the next straight, I think this is where Coxhead's going to get it done. As we said, these guys both came in around, in fact, they did come in on the same, Coxhead came in 4 laps later. So he's got much better tires and probably has enough fuel in the tank as well. And Brady Myers now putting his car in the middle of the track, making Chris Coxhead decide which way he wants to go around. And he's decided to do it the tough way around the outside, very late and hard on the brakes as Coxhead goes for the over-under. Nice traction out of that corner, but not quite enough to get him up alongside the TTL machine. But
Duckworth side by side with Harlow.
And there are just battles everywhere at the moment. And unfortunately, Duckworth able to get it now. And I would suspect that he's able to get past this time. Kyle Stokes and Steve Jansen is still very close as well. And Scott Solosky hasn't pulled away from Kurt Stenberg as much as I would have imagined. Still very much in the game there is Kurt Stenberg, and Steve Mackey, James Mackey, sorry, not quite done either. But a man who is done is actually, no, Duckworth got through and then didn't make it through all the way on Jackson Suslin-Harlow once again. So still having to find a way to get himself back into 10th position is James Duckworth there. Still trying to find a way once again, but we will take you back up to Chris Coxhead because it is starting to get pretty interesting for him. I think
Madison Down has just taken the white flag to start the last lap.
So this is it. This is what it is all for Coxhead. And has Brady Myers been fuel saving this whole time just so that he has enough in the tank for the final lap to go full pelt and defend? It doesn't look like it because he's already in the middle. Down Chris Coxhead going to try and go around the outside at turn number 1. He's got good overlap. He's going to make it past before the corner has even started, but Brady Myers is in there deep enough, and Chris Coxhead runs very deep into turn number 1, but he's got the rest of the lap to do it. And Chris, I think you can, mate. You just need to be patient and get it right, and he's doing a good job of that so far. Nice into the corner and nice out of the corner for turn number 3, down the back straight. I believe that Brady Myers is probably going to cover the inside once again here and try and force Coxhead around the outside, and he will do so. So Brady Mize takes the inside line. Chris Coxhead, once again, very deep on the brakes. Better on the brakes this time. Goes side by side through turn number 3. Has to pull out, though, as he gets run out of room towards the exit of the corner. And he's not going to be able to fire it down the inside. Surely not. Bit of contact there, and Brady Mize has been half spun by Chris Coxhead in the final lap of the race. And Brady Mize has essentially bailed out of that completely now. So Chris Coxhead has dived himself into position, locks up on the inside tire as he comes through turn number 8. But James Duckworth now having a look as they come down into turn number 3 on Suzlin Harlow. Going to have to go the long way around to turn number 3 and going to give Suzlin Harlow plenty of room to pull it up on the inside there. And
Duckworth's got the straight line speed, but he just cannot brake as deep as Suzlin Harlow can. And that's Suzlin Harlow is defending for his life. Duckworth catches up in all of the straights, and then Harlow goes to the inside and always defend.
But a man who has not had to worry about any of this whatsoever is the man himself. Madison Down takes out the final round this season at Road America of the iRacing V8 Supercars Championship, and he does it in a dominating fashion. Harley Haber, the man in the beautiful pink car, comes across the line second after starting 7th and having a fantastic race. And it's all over for Brady Mize because Chris Coxhead will take what I believe is his first podium. And Kurt Stenberg
coming back at Scott Cisłowski. They're side by side. Who will get to the line first? Cisłowski has that by the smallest, the tiniest of possible margins. 26 thousandths. What a great run out of the final corner there from Kurt Stenberg. Just needed 20 more meters to the finish.
Absolutely, and looks like Suzlin Harlow is going to actually finish this race ahead of Duckworth. So a valiant effort there from Suzlin Harlow after carrying so much damage. And oh yeah, thought he might have been coughing as he was coming up the hill there, but he has made it over the line to finish 10th. And Zach Baker actually got past Brenton O'Brien, I think, in the dying stages of that race as well. But few cars still crossing the line, but something we haven't talked about much this race at all, but something that is very important is this man who is on screen, Sam Blacklock, can now call himself, as he goes to do some burnouts, which he is very deservedly to do so. He can call himself a 2-time iRacing V8 Supercars champion, as he has wrapped it all up here. Needed a very strong performance from Brett Loxton to even worry about not taking the championship home this evening, but he has managed to take it all home. And giving a little bit of a hello to the barriers there is Sam Blacklock. He's going to back it up and hopefully put on a little bit of a spin show for us. But Sam Blacklock has just had an absolutely fantastic season. It's been so dominant, and he's just always outperformed the people that he's needed to outperform throughout the entire season, as he does get some nice looking donuts there on screen for you guys as well. So a big congratulations to Sam Blacklock, who we will get up in the booth very shortly to have a couple of words with. I'm sure it's a little bit bittersweet having such a, I guess, a negative final race for the season, but a very deserved championship nonetheless, David.
Yeah, exactly. A championship of 12 races, you can't just come and win the last race to be champion. Sam Blacklock's been not faultless, but very, very good all season. And that's what it takes to have a championship, and you shouldn't have that taken away from you just because you don't pull the last race together. So a deserving champion, doing plenty of donuts. There'll be nothing left of those rear tires when he's done with them. And I think it's about time we go to the race standings, though.
Absolutely. So it was Madison Down, Mr. V8, who took home the race victory tonight at Road America, in a very commanding performance with a 15-second lead over Harley Haber from Redback Racing Team, who fought his way from 7th on the grid up into that position and did a fantastic job doing so. Chris Cox said, I think I want to say that this is Chris's first podium definitely on a broadcasted race in the iRacing V8 Supercars official series. So a big congratulations to Chris Coxhead as well, because he definitely earned his position on the podium tonight and pushed Mr. Brady Myers out of the way in the dying stages of the race to get it. Brady came home just a second behind in 4th position. Scott Solosky, another fantastic drive. There were so many good drives this evening. He made himself from 16th up into a top 5 position, which is very nicely done indeed. And Kurt Stenberg finished in 6th. James Mackey moved himself up as well from 12th into 7th, and Kyle Stokes from 22nd into 8th. Another fantastic effort. Steve Jansen finished in 9th position, and Jackson Suzlin-Harlow not having the best race of his season so far, and finishing in 10th position.
11th place, though, goes to James Duckworth, who had plenty of pace, but just couldn't quite hold it together at the end to grab a top 10. He gets 11th. So 12th goes to Zach Baker. 13th goes to Brenton O'Brien, who battled hard all race. 14th to Mark Samuel. 15th to Liam Wilde, 16th goes to Justin Wallace, 17th place is Jamie Stovall, then in 18th, Damian Johnston, 19th, Craig Jones, and 20th is Jamie McKnight.
21st, we had Scott Clark and Jason Cossey in 22nd. We'll start off with the first of our DNFs. Next man, Christian Smart, did not unfortunately make it to the end, nor did Mario Vlasic. Championship winner, Mr. Two-time Sam Blacklock. He did finish the race, albeit 16 laps down, and that brought him home in 25th position. Thomas McMillan, Sam Sutton, Ross Rizzo, David Miller, Brett Loxton, Michael Taliancic, and Guy Leach all having troubles of their own. But we will, I think now, bring the Mr. Two-time into the booth, and we'll see if we can have a few words with him. Good evening, Mr. Two-time champion Sam Blacklock, mate. Not the best race for you this evening, but no doubt overshadowed by that big championship victory. How are you feeling this evening?
Yeah, look, I've had a pretty bad night of racing. I don't know if you guys have seen the 6:15 race. I did that as well. And there was a monstrous pile-up that involved pretty much everyone bar Sam Sutton. And look, it sucked for me. I haven't really had any sort of DNFs in a while, so I thought this race would be a little bit better. And yeah, look, probably wasn't.
Well, you know, you always take the good with the bad sometimes, I guess. But definitely seemed like, I mean, last season and this season, you've been putting on such strong performances. Very consistently all throughout the season. But you did have some very tough competition in this season as well. But you always just seem to be able to better everyone when you needed to. How have you found that consistency throughout these 2 championships? Do you think that that's really been one of the keys to taking these championships home for you?
I think the first season, so season 3, last season, I had, you know, a few good rounds. I think like one or 2 wins, like maybe 3. I can't remember. And the other rounds, I was just kind of, you know, 5th, 4th, 3rd occasionally, 2nd occasionally. But I don't reckon I was that consistent. Whereas this season, sorry, I was a lot more aggressive, and I think I made gains on that. And just some of the people I raced sort of late last season, early this season, really just set me up. You know, that absolutely amazing race at Bathurst with Cooper Webster. I think that was round 2. That was such an awesome battle. And that sort of pushed me to try and sort of keep my momentum going. And as you've seen, there's been a few ups and downs this season, but I think I've just sort of held my head there and tried to maximize every round. And it's not always the best way to win championships. You usually just want to be consistent, but I think I got a bit lucky. Obviously, Loxton had a few really bad races, not many of which were his fault. So, yeah, all credit to him. He gave it everything he had, and yeah, I can't wait to race him again next season.
Yeah, well, once again, congratulations, mate. It's it's definitely a big feat, regardless to be a two-time champion, especially in a series which is as competitive as this iRacing V8 Supercars Championship. We've seen a lot of drivers come through here, and so many of them have been to such a high quality, including yourself. Now, do you have anyone or anything else that you'd like to say or thank for this championship?
Yeah, just a massive thanks to the team, Brock Salmon, and anyone who's really worked on our setups. Yeah, it's been everyone's done so well. We've really kind of had to switch on with the new build of the V8. I'm going to be honest, I don't think we're doing anything sort of too different to anyone else, but we've just kind of worked with what we know, and yeah, the team's done a brilliant job, and Brock Salmon has been sort of one of the men behind that, so big thanks to him. Big thanks to Hybrid Racing Simulations for their support, and Chazelle Hydration, and yeah, Ahuda Pet Foods.
Excellent. Well, hopefully all of your sponsors can chip in a bit of money, and you can go out and buy yourself a nice bottle of a champagne to spray all over the backyard. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much to Mr. Sam Blacklock, your two-time iRacing V8 Supercars champion, for joining us in the booth this evening. Sam, you have a fantastic night, and enjoy the glory, mate.
Thanks, guys.
No problem. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to conclude this evening's broadcast. We do thank you so much for hanging around. Once again, if you haven't smashed like on this video, please do so. If you have not hit subscribe on the iRacing Esports Network, please do not forget to do so as well. And if you can jump over to the SimSpeed TV Network channel as well and give us a subscribe as well, that would be absolutely fantastic. Now, we will not be returning for the Monday Night V8 Supercar Official Series until round number 4, which is January 7th for all of you at home. So for the just for the iRacing V8 Supercars series, we'll be back on Jan 7th, and we do have a big announcement coming for this series, ladies and gentlemen. So you definitely want to make sure that you like on the SimSpeed TV Network Facebook page as well, so you can get any upcoming news on that. But the next broadcast that we have on the SimSpeed TV Network is the AOSC, which is going to be coming from the Charlotte Roval course, which is going to be very interesting, a very tight track, and I believe that it's going to be quite a new experience for a lot of people, David, and we could definitely see some very interesting racing, especially in a V8 Supercar around that track.
Yeah, exactly. The Australian Online Supercar Championship always produces some interesting racing, and it's going to be weird to see these V8 Supercars on some banking. That's not something we're used to, but it'll definitely be a challenge for them to set up those cars, and it'll be a great broadcast for us here on Friday.
Absolutely. Well, the last time I saw the V8 Supercars run at as at Daytona, and we had all cars, or the top 3 cars, finished within a tenth of a second of each other. So if we can have anything as good as that out of AOSC, you guys will be in for an absolute treat. And then something that you're probably a little more specialized in than me, David, but nonetheless is an absolutely hilarious watch. Every single time, Saturday night, we have Max Bantz.
Yep, exactly. Southpaw Racer, Mr. Reese Gardner's series that he puts on with Jake Sperry. Always good for a week 13 laugh. And, as inaugural champion, I have to give it a good plug and say, if you're not competing for that one, see if signups are still open. If you're not competing, definitely tune into our coverage, because it's always exciting, always a bit of a laugh. And that one's going to be a very unique race format for the Dallara IndyCar IR18 around Lime Rock Park chicane.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely see that being an interesting combination. So don't let your memes be dreams, people. If you want to have a bit of fun and get involved, come in and tune in on the SimSpeed Network, or sign up and be a part of the race yourself. But for us here at SimSpeed TV, we do thank you so much for joining us for this season of the iRacing V8 Supercar Series. We do very much always appreciate your company. And once again, we have to congratulate the series champion Sam Blacklock for doing an absolutely excellent job all season. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Bo Albert, who is normally commentating with me on these Monday nights. He's been doing a fantastic job all season. And thank David Haynes once again also for stepping in this evening. And as always, Jay Kennedy and also Scott Fountain, who's been plugging the buttons away on these TV broadcasts for you so regularly. But for us here tonight, I am Zach Hanlon. We do thank you so much for joining us. And until then, we'll see you next time.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.